All right, future CPPs, welcome. If you're gearing up for that exam, you know just how critical compliance is. Today, we're going to zero in on a topic that's pretty much guaranteed to show up: federal child labor laws under the Fair Labor Standards Act. My goal here is to help you really master this stuff so you can walk in and just ace those questions.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the basics, the fundamentals. Then we'll dive deep into the specific rules for 14 and 15-year-olds, and trust me, that's prime exam material. We'll also hit on hazardous jobs, look at the most common mistakes employers make, and then we'll wrap it all up by putting your knowledge to the test with a real CPP-style question.
Okay, so to really master these rules for your exam, it really helps to understand the mission behind them. It's not just about memorizing hours and dates. It's about getting the why. The whole protective framework that guides all of these laws. And this quote from the Department of Labor, this pretty much says it all. This is the bedrock principle of the FLSA's child labor rules. As a payroll pro, you have to remember that every single rule we're about to talk about and every policy you'll ever enforce, it all comes back to this one core mission: protection. Okay, now for the details you'll absolutely 100% see on the exam. The rules for 14 and 15-year-olds are super specific and very strict, which of course makes them a favorite for exam questions. So this is a really key area to focus on. This table right here, you need to burn this into your brain. It breaks down the two main scenarios: when school's in and when school's out. You have got to commit this to memory and pay really close attention to those little details, like the 7 p.m. curfew on school nights that bumps to 9 p.m. in the summer. These are exactly the kinds of specifics that will pop up on exam questions. So it's not just about the hours. The FLSA is also incredibly strict about the types of jobs 14 and 15-year-olds are allowed to do. As a payroll professional, this is so important for job classifications. A tricky exam question might layer a time violation with a prohibited job, like, say, operating a power-driven food slicer or doing any kind of construction work. Now let's build on that foundation. When we're talking about safety, some jobs are just considered way too dangerous for any worker under the age of 18. These are the absolute non-negotiables under federal law. This list is absolutely critical. Driving a company vehicle, operating a forklift, even using a trash compactor. It's all off limits. The exam might throw you a curveball with a scenario about a very capable-seeming 17-year-old, but the law doesn't care. It's absolute. Their age is the only thing that matters. Now, there is a key exception to be aware of. But, and this is a big but, it's very narrow. For the CPP exam, what you need to know is that this exception applies only to 16 and 17-year-olds who are in a formal, recognized student learner or apprenticeship program. This isn't just some casual on-the-job training. It has to be official. Knowing the rules is one thing, but for the exam and for your career, it's just as important to know where employers mess up the most. So let's take a look at the most common violations. Think of this chart as your compliance hotspot map, and just look at that biggest slice of the pie. A full 40% of violations come from just getting the hours wrong for 14 and 15-year-olds. That connects directly back to that table we looked at. It just goes to show you that mastering the timekeeping basics for your youngest workers is the single best way to prevent these problems. All right, we've covered the rules, we've seen the risks. Now it's time to put on your test-taking hat. Let's walk through a scenario that's built just like a question you might find on the actual CPP exam. Okay, take a second and really break this down. You've got the employee's age, the day of the week, the time of year, the exact hours they worked, and a very specific task. So, based on everything we've covered, which one is the right answer? And the correct answer is D, all of the above. If you pick D, fantastic. This is a perfect example of how the CPP exam tests your knowledge by layering multiple problems into a single question. Let's break down exactly why D is the right call here. So here's how it all falls apart for this employer. First, the daily hours. Working 4 hours on a Tuesday in October? Well, that's a school day, so that blows past the 3-hour limit. Second, the time of day. Working until 8 p.m.? Nope, that violates the 7 p.m. school year curfew. And finally, the job itself. Operating a power-driven meat slicer is a prohibited, hazardous job for anyone under 18. You gotta spot all 3 of those to confidently pick all of the above. Okay, let's wrap this up with a practical, exam-ready checklist. As a payroll pro, your #1 rule is to always verify age with proper documentation before they even start. You have to know those hour and time restrictions inside and out. And this one is huge. Always remember that state laws can be even stricter than federal law. The rule is you always have to follow the law that gives more protection to the minor. So I'll leave you with a final thought, something to take with you from the exam room right into your career. As a payroll leader, what's the best control you can put in place to proactively stop these violations before they ever happen? Think about things like system edits in your payroll software, mandatory manager training, or maybe some robust onboarding checklists. Thanks so much for watching, and best of luck on your CPP exam.